Oh, there's James. Welcome to Nightcap with Messaround, episode 2. Welcome in my good friends from Iceland and John Alcorn. How are you?
I'm doing great. Longhorns had a complete blowout on Saturday, and Bengals won on Thursday. And I tried to tell people the 49ers are going to beat the Rams. So I'm just happy. Never question my football genius again. Nobody, not even Terry Bradshaw himself.
And our good friend James. James, how are you? I heard you've been working a lot lately.
Yeah, I can only be on maybe today, tonight, but I'm just happy to be here, man. I was hoping for a better football game, Monday night football game, but that didn't happen.
Yeah, no, I was the same way. I watched a little bit of it, and as soon as Stafford threw that pick six, I'm like, oh, this game's over. They had a chance to come back until then, too.
Yep.
So to start out with my Bears and that bad performance against the Giants, really not a whole lot I can say there. Fields did the best he could. He looked a lot better at times, and then at times he looked terrible. But I read a stat that he was pressured on 49% of the times he dropped back to pass. And even when he did have time to throw, none of his receivers were open. So I've read this article. Trent Dilfer came out and said that you can't really evaluate him this year until they get him weapons next year and better protection. And then he thought Fields played a lot better. But I did say on Morning Tailgate that I thought the team that was going to win this game was the team that ran the ball better. And unfortunately, that was the Giants. So, John, how did your Bengals look this last week? I know they played on Thursday night and they got the win.
They got the win. It's not the way I wanted it to, with Tua being out, and obviously what's happened from there, and rightfully so. Gene said I sent him punt off. There's absolutely no reason why Tua or the Miami Dolphins, or specifically Tua, why Tua should have been coming back in that game. I mean, that was absolutely insane. I mean, congrats on the Bengals, but again, yes, they won the game. I'm happy they're 2-2 and back at 500, but they're still not playing consistent defense. They're not forcing a ton of turnovers, and they're not scoring a lot of points. So I'm really hoping moving forward with what Baltimore or the Browns are doing, that maybe that can give them some motivation there. But I mean, it was a win. I'm happy for it. I was just like, man, if we go 1-3, 0-4, I wouldn't know what to think.
And James, your Raiders got off the side and finally got their first win. How was that for you?
I felt like a relief to get off the schneid there. Really needed that, and a divisional win. There was a chance they could have gone 0-5. They still could go 1-4 as they face the Chiefs next Monday. But the win kind of exposed more the Broncos in a way, just the ineptitude that their offense is right now, where they're really not on the same page on the Denver side. There's a lot of dysfunction on offense, and they lost Javonte Williams today for the season. That's a huge loss for their running game. For the Raiders, their running game was so good with Josh Jacobs. He had a monster game. It was like a game he had, his first 2 years in the league. That's what it felt like, and he's in the last year of his deal, so I know he's wanting to ball out. And when they played Tennessee, and then now when they played Denver, he did very well. Derek Carr ran, I think, for 5 first downs. He didn't stay in the pocket. He didn't get that young offensive line to hurt him. He got out of the pocket like I've wanted him to since the opening day in LA. I thought he was just in the pocket too long, and he got sacked 5 times. But this time, he was able to get away and make stuff happen. Devontae Adams had a great game. It's just at certain times, Patrick Surtain, PS2, kind of shut him down on big third down plays, especially. That's where others have to step up. The Raiders are still missing Hunter Renfrow. He's big, of course, on third down. Defense, though, did a great job. Chandler Jones was getting, a lot of the attention, but they had Crosby on the same side of the line with Chandler Jones, and Crosby was in there to create some havoc. So that was great to see. Also, a scoop and score off of a Melvin Gordon Fumble. Uh, Gordon has fumbled 4 times already here in the first 4 games for Denver. Um, they're gonna need more of that. I think it was their first scoop and score in 3 seasons, by the way. And the way that they lost to Arizona in that same fashion off of a fumble, well, that kind of made it a little better. But now, off to onto Kansas City, and that's going to be a tough, tough football game. If I come in here on Monday, I don't think I'm going to be pleased with the way the game is going to go, but I'm hoping for the best.
So Chrissy Wilson saying hi, and we got Isaiah and Greg Galliano watching. Hi guys.
Hey, y'all.
Did any of you guys happen to see the early game, the Sunday morning game?
No, but I
Vikings
saw what
and Chiefs?
happened.
I thought that the Vikings were really gifted that game because I thought Thielen should have been called for an offensive face mask there, which didn't get called. And I know even Brandon, who's a big Vikings fan, thought the same thing. But overall, it was a pretty good game. It was close. Came down to a last-second field goal that double doink off the field goal. So, what do you guys think of the game, John?
Go ahead, John.
I think we know what Andy Dolan is for many reasons. We know he's been on 3 teams. His pocket presence or out-of-pocket presence is the worst in the National Football League. I mean, Jarvis Landry is open for, 5 to 6 second chances. We set him punt off, and he's like, oh, my gosh, where's he at? And then when Starks lives, he gets the touchdown. He just puts the ball down and walks away. Doesn't even celebrate. So I'm like, you freaking idiot. The ball, he was right there, and you didn't even see it. Like, Andy Dalton is. He's one-dimensional at best. He's not going to necessarily get you any wins. Like I said, keeping Teddy Bridgewater on that Saints team is really going to be more important than getting Andy Dalton or Jameis Winston, because once Winston is out, you could have Bridgewater familiar with his football team, would have got you some wins. I bet you he would have won today against his former team, knowing that defense. But the Saints are the Saints, and honestly, who knows? But if I'm the Saints, I would really look at the draft. Financially, it's better for you because you can produce a guy, especially with the Saints not having any money to spend in free agency. You got to be able to look at the draft, especially at that quarterback position.
James, your thoughts?
I think they got to find a way to trade Michael Thomas, and whatever happens with Alvin Kamara, probably keep him around. But remember, the punishment for whatever happened in Vegas is going to come up soon rather than later for him and the Saints. Anyway, for the game, though, for a while they had Jefferson down, did the Saints defense, but then he was able to do what he wanted to do, make catches, make plays. And that was really good to see. For the Saints, I wasn't expecting much, even if it was with Dalton. I was hoping they would have done a little better, and they did. I mean, they got in position for Lutz, but I was hoping Messaround Dave, you wouldn't have got traumatized by a double dunk again.
Right.
I think of Cordy Parkey and his double doink and
How
how
I'm just kidding.
awful that was, and for that to happen international, at least a close game finally internationally. I know the Giants and Packers next week play, I think in the same stadium in London. I'm not sure, but I'm hoping that's a good game. I mean, you saw what the Giants can at least do running, but they can't pass. Green Bay can really do it all when they put their minds to it. So I'm looking forward to that game. I don't know if I'll get up for that, but we'll see if I get up for that. But at least we have one good international game this year out of the 6 that are.
Yeah, so we got a couple comments rolling in through here. Chrissy says, anybody see the Cowboys Commanders game on Sunday?
Oh, yeah.
And then Will says,
I did, Christy, and I picked your Cowboys, so I expect a gift basket, a Starbucks gift card. I mean, I picked the Cowboys, so you should be thanking me.
James.
Yeah, that Cowboy game, you just knew what the hell was going to happen. You knew eventually the Cowboys were just going to take over. Now, their running game wasn't as good as I was hoping to see. Uh, Elliott didn't run well as much, and then Pollard, I think, only had about 6 yards rushing, 7 yards rushing. I was hoping for more of that, but credit to the Washington defense in that matter. But Lamb was able to get done well. The rookie Brown as a receiver, and then Michael Gallup came back and I think scored his first touchdown. And having that trio as wide receivers, that's going to be fun to watch. Now, the thing is, the Dallas defense is definitely one of the best in the league. Parsons creating havoc. Diggs got his pick. Now, the thing is, I know Dak Prescott wants to play, and Cooper Rush is doing so well. It's kind of, you just know Dak is going to get the job back, but I don't think he's ready to play just yet. But I know he's itching to play. But you saw the finger is still pretty numb. I don't know if it'd be ready to play, and if it gets hit, um, you might have more pain for his fingers. So the Cowboys have a big decision to come up. Do you rush Dak back, or do you keep with Cooper Rush and let Dak heal like he's supposed to? That's going to be interesting going in there. For Washington, though, they're just awful. And I spoke about this on Punt Off today, and I thought to myself, why are they not starting Heineke? Why? I knew they wanted to go for a good name like Carson Wentz. Good, I guess, but they really. I'm kind of flabbergasted why they don't start Heineke. I mean, this guy goes against the best, and he usually does the best. And the running game I wanted to see do well, but the Dallas defense shut that down, along with the passing game. And after a while, they had nothing to play for after that. So Dallas was the best on that day.
I kind of agree with Will. Cooper Rush should be the new franchise QB. Send Dak to Andy. I say ride Rush until the wheels fall off. Ride the Rush train.
That's the thing is, like, I think what Shannon Sharp said, and I don't watch Undisputed, I just watch clips here and there. Like, you want to see how he grips that football, because if he gets that hit again and his arm moves back, that can impact his shoulder, which we've already had that, and then something can happen with his ankle. It's not here to overreact. I think the Cowboys are in a perfect situation where there are 32 teams in the National Football League, and less than 25% of them have a really great backup quarterback. You only have one. Well, I say with Jimmy G, but now he's a starter. They had it with Jimmy G. Now he's a guy. They have it in Cooper Rush in Dallas. You need to keep him. Even though we know Dak's the answer. You can move on from him after 2023. Having Cooper Rush really is a stability. So if Dak is not feeling 100%, put Cooper Rush in. He's 4-0. He's familiar with the offense. There's no financial pressure. They'll be fine. But keep him as the backup. Come on. Like the fact that anyone would start a conversation is Cooper Rush is the guy. There's a reason why he was on the practice squad, folks.
So moving on, anybody see that Lions-Seahawks game? Oh, my gosh. The Lions just don't know how to quit. If they just put it all together, they'd be a great team. James, I'll start with you.
Yeah, they're one of the best offenses. They average 35 points a game. The thing is, they have to do it in comeback fashion all the time. If they were consistently good on defense, that would be a real help. We haven't seen Hutchinson make his impact yet, the rookie out of Michigan. And I want to see him do well. And I'm hoping he'll have his standout game pretty soon. But that defense has to do much better. Jared Goff, everybody's been writing him off, but he's been doing well. And think about this, guys. They didn't have Amon St. Brown or DeAndre Swift yet last week. And they were able to put up the numbers they did. The backup running back Williams did well. I forget what's his name from the receiving corp with him and Goff back in the day, but he did well with Josh Reynolds did well. Hawkinson is good. We've seen him as a great draft pick there with the Lions. That's been Goff's safety blanket, so that's been really good. So the Lions just need to get to a point where they're not coming back in all the games where they're playing 4 quarters. That's always tough for a team a team really not supposed to be good, and those that aren't, they never play a whole 4 quarters, and they have to come back all the time. For Seattle, though, it's amazing how Geno Smith has played 3 out of the 4 games, I guess. You know, and the running game was good with Rashard Penny. DK Metcalf did his thing and another thing at the end of the game. Um, and their tight ends, Will Disley is getting some work in. Seahawks defense, not the same, of course. And without Jamal Adams, that really hurts them even more to let Jared Goff back in. And I think they knew Jared Goff, from the days in LA, but they were still not able to figure him out late, and they let the Lions back in. It came down to onside kick, I know, and they couldn't recover it. But Seattle's lucky to get away with that victory, and it's just another growing pain for Detroit. They got to find their way again to play a whole 4 quarters.
Well, I think with Detroit, it's weird. Like before the Chiefs game ended or started, like you said, James, they were number 1 points in the National Football League, but yet they had the worst defensive league in terms of points allowed because their offense just wasn't being consistent. So the defense was trying to do something. Maybe Kuda's playing better. Hutchinson's that second overall pick, but they're gonna have to play. I mean, play a lot better on defense. I mean, if you can't force any turnovers, then the offense has to do it all, and at some point it's going to catch up to it. But hopefully they can play better.
All right, for the next game, we got the season debuts of both Zach Wilson and Kenny Pickett got into the game, and Jets won by one at the end with a touchdown. Your thoughts on that game, John?
You know, I picked the Jets to win because Zach Wilson has to have a game to prove himself. Now, he played terrible. Let me not say, oh my, no, he had 2 to 3 interceptions. He has in a press conference said he had the best hands on the team, and well, I mean, you can do the math on that. But for the Jets, if he doesn't do anything the rest of the season here, your head coach is potentially on the hot seat. So what happens to him in the next year or two? But specifically for this game, I mean, I predicted the Jets to win. I'm not that surprised he didn't play that well. I mean, being out, not being able to practice with your number 1 guys, but this is what 1 touchdown, 3 picks, and obviously Kenny Pickett now is officially the starter. So if I would hope most fans are not automatically assuming that now that he's getting the ball, now that he's the guy, everything's going to be all right. He's going to have 2 to 3 touchdowns a game. He's not going to have a lot of turnovers. He's been in the building. But who is this offense really centered around, knowing Mitchell Trubisky was a short-term option, especially with your offensive coordinator being ridiculous. But we'll see how it develops. But I did pick the Jets to win. That was my hot take of the week.
I picked them as well to win. James, your thoughts?
Yeah, I was wrong. I drunk the Steelers Kool-Aid. I thought they were gonna, and I knew this was gonna happen. I knew Trubisky was gonna get replaced in this game, and it happened. Although Kenny Pickett threw for 3 picks, he ran for 2 touchdowns. He got George Pickens a ball, but not into the end zone. Paramuth also did some work there for the Steelers, but it wasn't enough. The Jets defense came up clutch when it had to. You knew Zach Wilson was going to be a little rusty, coming off the off. Bryce Hall did pretty well on the ground. Corey Davis in the air. They both had touchdowns, along with Wilson and Barrios throwing for that touchdown to Wilson. And he ended up doing the gritty. But, it's one of those things where you see the Steelers losing this game where they really needed it, because the next 4 games are a gauntlet for Pittsburgh. They go to Buffalo, they host Tampa Bay, they go to Miami, and then they go to Philadelphia. This team could easily be 1-7 headed into the end of headed into their bye week at the beginning of November. So it's going to be tough sledding for the Steelers, and for the Jets, I know they're just trying to just take off just a little bit, and I think this was a good win for them. Good win for their coach, Robert Saleh, who said they wanted to keep receipts about the doubters, and I guess this is one game you can get away with that you could keep that receipt and show everyone that you paid for that win.
So the next game I want to talk about is the Chargers and Texans, and I said on the morning tailgate, if the Chargers were playing anybody else, I would have picked them. But since they're playing the Texans, and they almost let Texans come back and win. I mean, it was close. It was close. It wasn't that close, but it was closer. Most people thought it would be a 10-point game. James, your thoughts?
Justin Herbert did well. Of course, we're all, waiting for him to get hit and how he's going to respond from his ribs injury. But he found Austin Eckler. He was able to score 3 touchdowns. Mike Williams did his thing. The defense was good until that second half when they let Houston back in. Uh, for Houston, we all know, it's going to be a long year. They do have Pierce, the rookie running back, and he had his breakout game like I was hoping he would have. He had, I believe, over 100 plus yards, and I'm really hoping for him to do more and more because they need a lot at their key positions. They need a lot more. They need some younger receivers, but most importantly, a lot of great defensive players to come in. For the Chargers, you're hoping not for a repeat of last year where they lost to Houston in Houston. And I think they wanted revenge and wanted to show, well, that was last year, this is this year. And even without their left tackle, without Keenan Allen, their receiver, they were able to put up enough points on the board to hold off the Texans, though.
John, your thoughts?
Obviously, I mean, I picked the Chargers. I mean, Dave and James, this is do we have to call this a football team? It's the Houston Texans. We know everything about them. Like I said, the Chargers were outscored 17-7 in the second half. So obviously, like I said, James and I were saying on top, obviously all those injuries was a huge concern of that, and nearly having the Texans come back, and they took advantage of that. And also, what it shows is the lack of defensive consistency, forcing those turnovers. You see in the second half, you're outscored by 10 points. The Texans were getting those points in the second half. Like, if you can't force those turnovers, you can't get the pressure to the quarterback in the late in the third, early in the fourth quarter. How is this Chargers defense going to go closer and later in the season? As you see, that Chiefs defense is obviously, I'm not saying they're great, but they're playing a little bit different. We see that what's going to happen with the Raiders, the Broncos, and you see the Chargers defense being so up and down that we don't know what's going to happen. But I'd be really surprised that they beat the Texans. I mean, the Texans I'm pretty sure, are projected to be the worst, if not one of the worst teams in the National Football League this year.
The next game is the Falcons and Browns. I didn't watch this game, but I had the Browns winning. And I didn't even realize until I just looked down that the Falcons actually won this game by a field goal. So, John, your thoughts on this one?
James had to remind me who I picked because, like you said, the last 2 weeks I've worked like 6 days straight because that was a good idea. But apparently I picked Atlanta to win. And it's weird because the Browns, like you say, they have that defense. They have the playmakers. They have Cooper. They have Kareem Hunt. They have these guys. And what I don't get is Nick Chubb. If I'm looking at his stats here in just a moment, because I just had that pulled up. He's been one of the more proficient running backs since coming into the league. In the last 2 games, 42 carries for 231 yards. You're averaging 115.5 yards per game and 21 carries. Add that more in the last 3 games. So they're giving him the football, but like we know what Jacoby Brissett is. He's not even a game manager at this point. Cooper Rush is a game manager. Cooper Rush is a backup quarterback. Jacoby Brissett is neither of those. So you're going to just try to keep the flow to boat until you get the guy in week 12 who you sacrifice your morals for, even though you could have had a guy that would have been a lot cheaper. And Deshaun Watson, who's had a very hard offseason. I guess I mean it in that way. But we'll just have to see with the Browns. Like, it's been so up and down with that division with the Steelers and Kenny Pickett, with the Ravens, my Bengals. I mean, we'll just have to see what happens. But it's going to be a very long very long season for the Browns.
James?
Yeah, Jacoby Brissett did what he could, but he couldn't throw for any touchdowns. I was hoping Mariota would have done better and find his receivers. Kyle Pitts only had one reception. Drake London only had two. No throwing touchdowns. Then the same for Cleveland. David Njoku, who I vouched for him to get the ball more. Amari Cooper only had one catch. That just can't happen. If you get those guys involved and not just Hunt and let him rush for 100 yards every game, you're not going to win. And it showed Sunday there in Atlanta. A late pick, by Brissett made it happen for the Falcons. And Young Ho Koo to kick the winning field goal, and he's one of those underrated kickers. Everybody thinks of Crosby and Tucker, but Koo is one of those clutch kickers that you have to rely on. And if you have fantasy and need a kicker, you go out after him if others are taken. So good for Atlanta to sneak out a win. Both teams are 2-2 uh, so far in the season.
And next we got the the Eagles and Jaguars. I had the Jaguars my lock of the week. I just thought their defense was playing real well. They have top 5 offense and defense, and I just had them as a lock because I figured they'd pull off the upset, but it didn't happen. But it was a close game. James, your thoughts on that one?
I was hoping that game was going to be more of a shootout, but it was rainy weather, and that was not good for that case for me. Trevor Lawrence had a hard time with the Eagles' defense. He was sacked 4 times. He did throw for 2 touchdowns to Agnew. Jalen Hurts, I want to give a pass to because of the weather. Um, but rushing wise and receiving wise, Philadelphia couldn't do, or Jacksonville couldn't do much because of that defense that Philadelphia possesses. They're really good. Miles Sanders had a real great breakout game with 134 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. Hurts also ran for one, and Gainwell as well ran for one. AJ Brown put up some numbers there, but they did it on the ground, and I think that was good to see for Philadelphia. They can win these harsh weather games, and they're going to have more of those later on in the season when you think about it. Jacksonville, I think, showing they're not there yet, but they're in that 2-2 pack like almost everyone else is. Everyone's kind of like even when you think about it, guys, record wise. Or if you're like the Eagles, you're the only undefeated team at 4-0. So very good win for the Philadelphia Eagles on Sunday.
John.
I picked the Jaguars to win, and I think for the Eagles, they're 4-0. They've deserved it. I just don't know how sustainable this is for the Eagles. I know I'm saying it's just the first 4 games and all this yada, yada, yada. But looking at Jalen Hurts, and not even just in this game, it's looking at who they've played. You've had Detroit, Minnesota, Washington, and the Jaguars. I'll give you credit. The defense, this is going to be a defensive running type team where Jalen Hurts is going to have to use his legs to get the ball downfield. That's totally okay, and I have not a problem with that. But what happens when you play, because you've had this super easy schedule so far. So what happens this Sunday when you play Arizona, or the next week you play Dallas, or then the Steelers, or then the Colts, or then Tennessee, or then potentially whatever's going to happen with the Saints. Yes, they have an easier schedule than most people, but if you can beat those teams, if you can beat your divisional teams by 65+% or more, I think they'll be fine. And it's not going to be the type of team or offense where it's going to have to be like Jalen Hurts or Patrick Mahomes, where he has to throw for 340 yards a game. Let the defense do its thing. Let's see what happens with Jalen Hurts. But, I mean, congrats to them. They're 4-0. And I'm happy to say, so far, this team has proved me wrong.
So Will Polston saying this Eagles team is playing like the best in the NFC. I don't know how you call the Jags going to affiliate lock. That's bold, Messaround. It was bold. The next game we're going to talk about is the Packers and the Patriots. Packers pulled out the win, 27-24. Billy Zappi, I guess, had a really good game. Looked really good in that game. Is that more because the Green Bay didn't get to prepare for the guy, or did he just play that good? I don't know, John. Your thoughts?
Aaron Rodgers is the main reason why the Green Bay Packers are in the situation they're in. He is very toxic as a quarterback. Devontae Adams never wanted to play with you since he came in the National Football League, and that's not completely on Rodgers because he wanted to play with Carr coming out of Fresno State in their brotherhood. But at the same time, he didn't enjoy playing with you. Like, what has Aaron Rodgers done for this organization in the past 10 or 11 years? Besides get engaged to two or three women and break off with all of them. Aaron Rodgers has had more proposal rings than he's had Super Bowl rings, and it should be the exact opposite. I don't get the excitement with Rodgers and the Packers. A problem issue is that also he gets a pass for anything he does, which is the absolute stupidest thing. He can curse out his head coach. He can do all this, and I don't. I kind of agree with what he's saying, and where he's like talking about this win yesterday, where it's not very sustainable going to overtime on 24-20. And yeah, I don't think it's very sustainable. But at the same time, the reason, to a certain extent, why Adams is done, why you may not have some of the receivers you want in terms of trades, is because your personality, how toxic you are, how you are, and how you conduct yourself. And you took another big fat contract. You can't expect to trade for guys when you take all of the money. You get no sympathy from me. So I think with how bad that division is this year, I mean, it's still anyone's game. Like you said, through the first 4 weeks, in most of the divisions in football, there's most teams, even in last place, are like 1 or 2 games behind first place. But I mean, I picked the Pack. I'm pretty sure I picked the Packers to win that game. But honestly, we're seeing the how Aaron Rodgers is missing Devontae Adams.
James.
I didn't expect the Patriots to be in it in this game, but they got an interception early. The Packer offense was not doing well. Um, the fact is, Zaire Alexander was really missed by Green Bay. Bailey.
And the last game we're going to talk about is the Chiefs. The Sunday night game, the Chiefs and Buccaneers. I had the Chiefs winning this game. I thought it'd be closer than the 10 points that Kansas City skipped with the win there. I'm glad Kansas City won because I hate the Buccaneers. But James, your thoughts?
Third.
I think James may be cutting out.
What's that?
I think Jane's internet may not like him tonight. I think Jane's.
Okay, so John, go ahead. Your thoughts.
First, I picked Tampa Bay to win, but I think clearly, I say this about any player in the National Football League, whether it's quarterback, receiver, tight end, or defense, whether it guards a position. Distractions off the field are going to affect your play on the field. Tom Brady is allowed Wednesdays off. Him and Giselle are having problems, potentially getting a divorce. You see, he's saying some of the mistakes that he doesn't usually make. He's obviously continuously to break tablets. In games where they won, the defense had to bail him out. Didn't play well against Dallas. This Chiefs team, I don't know why some people, if you really watch football and see how great Patrick Mahomes is, I can't stress how great he is, where thinking that once Tyreek Hill was traded to Miami, magically, oh my gosh, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs are going to fall downhill. You have the rookie. You have Travis Kelce. You have Crowder Taylor. You have that backup like against said if Crowder is hurt. You have the rookie defensive players. Like you said, having Tyrann Mathieu on the team didn't really necessarily make the Chiefs defense any better whatsoever. So letting those guys go, letting him go to, of course, New Orleans, it definitely opened up a huge window defensively. But for the Chiefs, man, they're phenomenal. I don't know how anyone that truly knows football would think that magically, oh my gosh, Tyreek Hill leaving is going to distract. Mahomes made those kind of throws in college in Texas Tech with Cliff Kingsbury as his head coach. Do you see that James was telling me that touchdown pass he threw when it looked like he was going to get sacked and it was going to be going to the ground? He just threw it like magic, and I don't understand how he does it. But Patrick freaking Mahomes does it again, and he still has my respect, even though he puts ketchup on the steak.
Should have been a bear. James, your thoughts?
I know. I keep thinking about that. You know, Brady got his numbers, but they were late. They were trying to make a comeback. But the Chiefs are not going anywhere. Edwards-Helaire ran well. Isaiah Pacheco, the rookie running back who's in place of someone else. He's a hard runner. Fournette had -3 yards rushing, just something that can't happen. Mike Evans did ball out. I worry about Chris Godwin. He keeps getting injured. It seems like Travis Kelsey did his thing. They're a beast. They're a beast. They're a burden for everybody else. Are the Chiefs, and they keep showing it every week, pretty much, unless they get figured out like the Colts did. But it just shows the Chiefs are still the best, at least in the AFC. I know the Bills are trying to stop that, but we'll see what happens later on down the road for Kansas City.
Yeah, they're definitely going to be tough out this year for anybody. So we've covered everything. Give your final thoughts. James, go ahead.
Hey, man, thank you for having me on. I feel my Town Hall PM kicking in, so I'm going to get out of here. But, hey, man, thank you for letting me come on today. I'm going to hibernate for a little bit and get up early and head off to work. Yay. Thanks, guys. Later.
Yeah, I get it, man.
John?
It's just happy to be here, man, and I'm just glad that football. I think for me, it's kind of aggravating. Like the football season is going by way too quick, and it's already almost the end of week 4. But I'm just happy to be here, talk some football.
And thank you guys for joining the show and being with me every week that I do this. I appreciate you, and we'll see you next week and talk some week 5 NFL scores. Have a good night, y'all.